Greetings to you one more time, our friends on social media. We're coming to you one more time again on Word of Strength for today. And our topic for today is prayer. And having to discuss with me this topic is Sister Pretoria, my partner in this aspect. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is to define prayer. Prayer is a solemn request to God. Or another definition have it that a solemn request for help or expression of thanks expressed to God. Now, prayer is simply a means by which man can communicate with God, whether privately, according to Matthew chapter 6 and verse 6, or we can communicate with God in prayer publicly. Any form of communication made to God is prayer. Now, prayer is to be sincere to God. According to James chapter 5 and verse 16, it tells us, now, confess your faults one to another and pray one for another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Now, according to Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 6, before you can pray a sincere prayer to God, but without faith it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So you cannot come to somebody asking them for something and you don't believe that they will give it to you. No, going to God, communicating with him through prayer, asking him for something, you have to first believe. First of all, if you're going to ask somebody for something, you have to believe that they will give it to you, right? So it is then. God wants us to first believe before we can come to him and request something in prayer. Now, the different aspects of prayer now. Well, the first aspect of prayer, intercessory prayer. It is when an individual seeks God on your behalf, on the behalf of somebody else. And we see that recorded in James chapter 5 and verse 14. And another aspect of prayer, prayer of thanksgiving. When you pray to God, giving him thanks, expressing your gratitude to him for something that which he have done for you. Now, the prayer of adoration and praise. You're expressing praise to God in the form of prayer, telling him what he means to you. And we see that recorded in 2 Samuel chapter 2, where Hannah was giving God thanks, where Hannah was praising God because God has answered her prayer. So she made a prayer of adoration and praise to God, praising him for what he has done for her. And we also have the prayer of request. This is where you see God for something earnestly. You touch God, right, with a need. Something you want from him. You want something and you want him to fulfill that need. So you go down to him in prayer, asking him. And we see that recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 2. Right? Now, prayer is a means by which it connects the heavenly to the earth. Connects earth and heaven. It's a landline. Prayer is a landline from earth to heaven. It is a means by which we can communicate to God. We can connect to God, connect to the heavens by prayer, by communicating to God. So prayer is a very important aspect in our Christian life. And so now we have it that Sister Pretoria will be coming to us now. And she'll be enlightening us more on the different areas of prayer. Welcome, Sister Pretoria. In Jesus.
Thank you for having me once again, my brother Siobhan. And thanks for you watchers and social media. God bless you. And as you were talking about prayer, it's a very interesting and important topic because people often pray and we can pray to many things, many statues. People make their requests to their gods. Blessed be the name of the Lord. But when we are talking about prayer to our God, our creator of all things, and when you view what Matthew speaks of, first acknowledge who God is, and first acknowledge who you are. Blessed be the name of the Lord. First we see acknowledge, as in Matthew chapter 6 and verse 9. God was teaching his disciple as Jesus come through the scene. He teaches his disciple as a desire to be taught how to pray. And he said, after this manner, therefore pray ye, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Simple mean that before you come to him in prayer, you have to acknowledge who he is. Our Father, and where he dwells, who art in heaven, hallowed be his name, meaning to reverence him, to worship, to praise him by any means. And as you go forward, for we first acknowledge that God is in heaven, so that make you a son or a daughter, because if you acknowledge him as a father, right, for you it make you a son or a daughter. So you are petitioning, you are beckoning to your father. So the role of a child is to ask of their parent as what they needed. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Holy is your name, meaning set apart to reverence is your name. After all of this said and done, then thanksgiving must be made. The first to make your request. Giving thanks before you make your request. When you're acknowledging and reverencing him and giving thanks, then whatever reason you call on him for, then you make it be made known. Whatever you're acknowledging him about, you make it be made known. If it's something you're requesting of him, you request it. And if it is something that you are telling him, you tell him about it. As any child will go to their parents and speak to their parents about things that happened during the day, and speak about their friends to their parents, whatever it is, you speak to God about just the same. And so as it is in acknowledging, and when we acknowledge God, it's not only in our ways, but major if there is any sin, like David acknowledged him in Psalm 51. So it's important to focus on what you're telling God about. If somebody make a request, asks you to, can you pray for me that I may have a job, then you know when you are praying, you are speaking about the job and the person's behalf. Blessed be the name of the Lord. David have transgression, he acknowledged it. Because prayer involves several important aspects. We can do nothing of ourselves. So acknowledge him is a must. So after we make our requests, we in return listen for direction. We in return listen and look. As it is now, when Elisha have prayed for rain, he sent his servant to look if the clouds change, to see if there is any sign of rain about to fall. So you pray and look, you pray and listen. That means you must get respond. Because if you should ask your parents for a pair of shoes, a special pair of shoes, then you listen to what they have to say. It simply means that if you speak alone, you have a conversation by yourself. But if you're having a conversation with God, it is you that speak and him speak thereafter. Why? Because it was you that is acknowledging him in the first place. Blessed be the name of the Lord. As James chapter 4 also state that verse 3, he asks and receive not because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lust. That is another aspect of prayer when we come into God and we are petitioning God. It can be that you get and it can be that you get it not. Just like your parents in the natural, they can give you as well as they withhold it from you. And he said you ask and receive not. So when you ask of God and you don't get what you ask for, you must look upon the condition which you ask. He said you ask amiss, to conceive it upon your lust. Blessed be the name of the Lord. So it's important how we ask when we go to God. And the Bible also states in James chapter 1 and verse 8 that you must be single-minded, because he said a double-minded man cannot receive anything of God. So in you be double-minded, that means that this week you may want to go to school, the next week you said, I'm not going to bother with study, I'm going to work. You're double-minded. You want to go to school and you want to work. Which of them? You have to be single-minded when going to God. So a double-minded man, the Bible said, cannot get anything from God, because you don't know what you're all about. Until you know what you're all about and be stable and what you want, then God will respond. We don't have to see or hear at times instantly from God, but we will, because what is God delight? In the prayer of his people. And you know, if you don't hear from God immediately, it doesn't mean that he doesn't hear. It doesn't mean that he's not listening. But you have to give people time to respond. You have to give God time likewise to respond. You give things time to digest. It's a way of acknowledging God. At the end of the prayer, something must happen. Something must bring about a change, because God hear you, he respond. So when he responded, it's important for you to do what he said. So don't give up, but just keep praying and acknowledging God and listen to what God have to say as you hear more on Brother Siobhan, what he is saying. God bless you.
Well said, Sister Pretoria. That is a very powerful point you made there. Now, what I'll be focusing on now is prayer. How you can exercise your power through prayer. Now, prayer is a way in which we connect to the heavens and tap into a greater force. Now, our prayer lies within, our power lies within our prayer. Now, why do I say that? Knowing that power comes from God, he is a power source, and prayer is a means by which we connect to God, right? So in order for you to get light from GPS, right, or in order for your phone to charge, you have to plug the charger into the power source, right? So in order for us to utilize our power, in order for us to exercise the authority God has given us, we first have to connect to him through prayer. And having connected to him, connecting to him through prayer, we unlock and use the power that God has given us. Now, whenever we connect to God, he gives us the power over different conditions and situations. He gives us authority through prayer, our connection to him. He is the power source. Now, because he is the power source, you have been connected to him through your prayer. Now, that is how we utilize our power. Now, as all forms of communication, right? Communication with God has its barriers. Now, a barrier that will stop a good flow of communication between you and God is a distracted mind. And as Sister Pretoria rightfully said, she said that double-minded man cannot get anything from God. So because you're double-minded, you're distracted. You're asking God for this, but something else along with that you want from God is on your mind. So because of that, you're not communicating with God the right way. You're not connecting to him, right? And because you're not connecting to him, you cannot get what you want from him. And another barrier of communication with God is sin, right? Sin is a barrier of communication with God. Why? Because when you're not walking in the right way, when you're not walking in the way God wants you to go, you cannot communicate with him. You cannot have a friend, and the friend tell you he or she does not like this, and you're doing that which she or he tell you that they don't like. Probably they won't talk to you because of that. Now, so it is with God. Sin is a barrier to communication. So these are the few words that we're going to leave with you. Just be blessed in Jesus' name. Feel free to leave your comments at any time. Thank you.